The open public meeting law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public have advance notice of and to attend meetings in public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon in accordance with the provisions of the Act of the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Star Ledger and Express Times and submitted to Town Clerk, Town of Belvidere, January 10, 2019. Please rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Here. Mr. LaValle?
Here.
Mr. McInerney?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Blum?
Here.
Mr. Matlock?
Here.
Sorry. Dr. Tuffet?
Here.
And Stefan?
Here.
And Ms. Bokino?
We're going to jump the agenda. We're going to do the Mary Ann. Take your oath of office.
If you don't mind, you're welcome to just read that out loud.
Let me put my name in, huh?
Yes.
I, Marion Stephan, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to governments established in the United States and this state, under the authority of the people, so help me God. Should I raise my hand? My hand raised? I, Marion Stephan, do solemnly swear.
Let's start over.
No, I'm not starting over. The next paragraph starts the same way. That I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of the Board of Education, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God. That's it.
Welcome back. You can sign that and pass it down this way.
And then we're going to just jump again, and we're going to let Mr. Morgan in his presentation on Dragonfly, because he needs to go to the wrestling match.
Everyone, just for those who don't know me, I'm Mr. Dwayne.
You're on camera.
Oh,
You're
gotcha.
blocking the camera.
I'm Dwayne Morgan. This is Bridget Kehoe. We're the athletic trainers here from St. Luke's. We're just here to discuss our injury tracking software, Dragonfly, that we started this year. So Dragonfly is basically all it is injury tracking software. I've had one for 11 years. The one we had is a little outdated, so thank you. The one that we had was a little outdated, so we decided to upgrade to a better one. So Dragonfly is a cloud-based EMR for us. Now, being healthcare professionals, we have to keep accurate records, and we have to keep them for a minimum of 7 years, just like doctors and any other medical profession. So what I've been doing for the past 11 years was we used one software, and I would take pretty much a week out of my beginning of my year and input every single athlete, all of their pertinent information, emergency contact information into that software. So with the new, when the software that I had jumped to a cloud-based platform, and it's now a $250 per year fee. So I went looking for a new platform. Dragonfly is free, does all the things that we needed to do. So we had a webinar with them, spoke with them on the phone, asked a bunch of questions. Bridget and I both went through the software and just made sure that it was something that we could actually use. So what this software, we send a basic information sheet home with the parents. Parents and or the athletes can sign up for an app on their phone. They fill out all the pertinent information on this app. It's HIPAA and FERPA compliant, so there's nobody can get access to this except for the two of us or anyone that we deem we allow access to. So we decided to go this way because it just makes it easier for us. Instead of, like literally I would take an entire week out of my, beginning of my season and just inputting names and phone numbers and addresses and all that stuff, and it's just time consuming. Took away from my other duties as the athletic trainer here. So this way, I know sometimes with our new Genesis, online Genesis stuff, it's kind of double duty for the parents, but with the online stuff, it takes about, there's only a couple things that are mandatory on the program. It takes a total, I think one of the parents told me it takes a total of 10, 15 minutes tops to fill it all out. On top of that, St. Luke's, being, us being now working for St. Luke's, requires us to have every athlete have 2 forms to fill out. One is a HIPAA release form, which doesn't have to be, you don't have to agree with it. It basically says that we are allowed to view your son or daughter's medical records if need be. You don't have to agree with it, but it needs to be signed, it needs to be returned to us. Another one is a consent form, which is consent for us to treat the athletes. If we don't have that, we are not allowed to physically treat any of the athletes that don't have it returned. So those are the 2 forms that we have up. In the fall, we didn't have time to upload it to Dragonfly, so we handed everybody out a piece of paper, had it signed back, have it brought back signed. But for the winter, we had it uploaded to Dragonfly, so everything's right on the website, or on the app or on the website. It's pretty easy, self-explanatory to do. Am I missing anything?
One of the bonuses with the application is this also allows access for parents as well as coaches if we give them that permission to see what's going on with their athlete. Because a lot of times what tends to happen is that miscommunication of, oh, well, the athletic trainer said this, or the coach said, oh, well, my kid said that they're fine and they're not. So if there's any questionability going on in that area, anyone that we give access can only access that one person or those multiple people on their team regarding, the condition. It also makes it a little bit easier for us to maintain records in a more timely fashion, kind of like Dwayne mentioned before, because typically when we do evaluations on the sidelines, they're very quick. You can't be sitting on there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes at a time unless you're waiting for an ambulance, which knock on noggin, doesn't happen too often. So we're able to dictate pretty quick into our phones, so we don't miss much. One of the downsides with a lot of other record-keeping systems is you have to log it in on a desktop format. So the Dragonfly, same thing with the parents, they're able to download the application. So they don't have to, it's just if they would like the access to see what we're doing with their children. Most of the time we still do call and contact and speak directly or email or whatever means are necessary, but this is just another way to bridge that gap. As far as setting up your account on the Dragonfly application, all we really request are, there should be 3 required areas, which is same thing as an emergency contact. It says it's listed as demographic, something like that. And then those HIPAAs and consents. In the demographic area, I think some of the confusion is the Dragonfly setup has an automatic format that requests insurance information, this, that. We don't need any of that. And that's what we tell the kids when we set them up with their applications. It's all you need, someone at home, a contact number. If you have medical allergies or asthma, something that we need to know that'll kind of flash when we look at your profile, that's it. Nothing else has to be filled out. This has also been approved by St. Luke's. They are aware of what we're using. It is HIPAA and FERPA compliant, as Dwayne mentioned before. And it just kind of makes the most sense to use. Other softwares, if you want like a rough estimate, cost around $600 to start up and then about $250 annually. And because we have to maintain records for 7 years, every time you invest per year, it's a 7-year investment right out of the gate. If you want to have access to those records later, it's just general state law, and it's required as a medical professional. Any other questions about the application that we're using? No, it's pretty straightforward. It was just requested to be discussed among the board members.
So one other thing I wanted to say. So this application has the only people who have access to the pertinent medical information are Bridget and myself, and anyone else that we deem an administrator. So if we don't give you access, you get no information. So none of this isn't information that we're giving to St. Luke's and St. Luke's is saying, oh yeah, I have all this information, I have your name, address, of all your kids, your insurance information. They have none of that. That's just for Bridget and I. We don't give any information to St. Luke's. St. Luke's is requiring us to give information to them. I'll let Bridget touch on that one. It's basically anytime we refer an athlete to a doctor, whether it's St. Luke's or not, they are requiring us to give name, address, phone number, injury, date seen by the doctor, who they saw, when they saw them, when they were cleared. I think is that everything?
Yeah, that's the gist of it. So I have the paper going around. So this form is required of us as St. Luke employees. However, if parents decide to sign the consent form a no, which you're more than happy to, we're not forcing it, then we don't have to put any misinformation on. As of now, just for our comfort levels, and I think just a general lack of understanding of the way that St. Luke's is working for the school, I have not inputted any personal information other than a name. And then anyone that has been referred has signed their consent and their HIPAAs, and that's on the Excel spread that I send them on a monthly basis. From what we were informed of by our superiors there, is that this is basically just used to track how many athletes we're referring out to St. Luke's. It's kind of it. So even if athletes are being seen by other hospitals, other physicians, we have to put it on there if it is a yes on a HIPAA. Any other questions on that?
So I guess my question is it clear then to the family then it's not, because I thought I heard you say something slightly different, so that's why I'm a little confused.
I'm sorry.
Is it, maybe it was me.
Sure.
This is an optional thing for the family to
So
sign or not to sign?
Yes. So the forms still have to be returned to us, but you can opt to not consent for treatment, which I've actually had one parent do that. They didn't want any treatment for their student athlete, so we weren't allowed to give them anything but a bag of ice and a Band-Aid. But we weren't allowed to put any hands on them at all. But the form still has to be returned to us. You just have to, signify
check
no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want, I don't consent. And the HIPAA is the same thing, no, I don't consent. But it still needs to be returned to us that we have it on file saying, yes, you've consented to this, or no, you didn't.
So if there is a no consent, that does put the school not at a liability, but it does say that, heaven forbid, something happens to their child on field, we cannot touch them at all. It's an instant 911 call if it's anything that, out of professional experience, we deem should be seen immediately. Other than that, it's a call to the parent or wherever the guardian contact is listed on the emergency contact forms.
Other questions from the board?
So I understand you can sign a waiver to allow treatment or not allow.
Exactly.
Separate from that, mandatory to use the Dragonfly software if a parent does not want to use the Dragonfly.
So the Dragonfly software is for us. Now you don't have to use it, but we had in the beginning of the year when we decided to use Dragonfly, we did have multiple meetings with the AD at the time, Chris Carabinas, saying that we discussed the use of our new software. He asked if we could do it through Genesis. Genesis did not do what we needed it to do. So he said, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. And he said, well, we can make it mandatory. That's perfect. So the reason why it's mandatory, and it's not that you have to use the app, it's that you have to just put in the information, input the information. It's basically all we're looking for is the two forms that we need signed for St. Luke's and emergency contact information. That's it. You don't have to have the app on your phone. You don't have to follow the app. It just makes it easier for us to have, instead of having to input 250 athletes information into the system, so that we can track their injuries and have it at our fingertips for when one of the athletes does get hurt. We can pull it up right over our phone and say, okay, we're going to call Mr. Mitchell. Here's the number. Yeah, I'm ready. We have your emergency contact information right there. Hit the button, and we call you right away. We don't have to go through, have 250 pieces of paper in a stack. It's just right at our fingertips. So you don't have to use it. It's just inputting the information, and you're done with it. And it's a one-time thing. It doesn't have to be done every year unless there's something to be updated as far as emergency contact or address changes or anything like that. So that's it.
So it's not actually
Thank you. I
a
got to run
mandatory.
over to wrestling.
It's
Thank
not
you.
actually a mandatory application for the parents to have, but we are making it mandatory for the students to participate, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to keep a solid record of what we're doing with them. It's better for accessibility for everyone on that application, as well as cost effectiveness.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to do executive.
Yeah, now we'll do.
Okay, we have an executive session. We typically, you know what, can we do public participation and then do exec, because we do have people for, we're gonna jump around the agenda. We're being a little informal this evening. I know there's a couple people from the public, I think, that want to speak to the board. As soon as we do public participation, then we are going to go into exec. So,
Your correspondence first?
yes.
Dave wants to.
Correspondence?
No, I don't think that's what we do.
So I have one letter to the board, but actually the person that wrote it would like to read it out loud.
Thank you.
Mr. Reader?
Dear members of the dear members of the Belvidere Board of Education, in 1999, while attending the White Township Board of Education meeting, I was appalled with the behavior of one of the board members. I asked how that person managed to become a board member and was informed that he had run unopposed. I was shocked and quickly came to the realization that I had no room to be critical unless I became part of the solution. I placed my name on the ballot and began my service shortly thereafter. As a lifelong member of White Township, I have very strong affection and appreciation for the education acquired through White Township and Belvidere High School. The experiences and knowledge of these institutions has benefited me as well as my three sons greatly. Having an opportunity to assure the future well-being of these schools through wise decision making has been my pleasure. In 2000, I was appointed as the Sending District Representative to the high school and continued as a representative through the end of 2018. White Township Sending District represents 1/3 of the high school population. I was honored to be welcomed by this board and to work with you through many changes and challenges. I want to publicly thank this board for their diligence in providing a thorough and efficient education despite incredible fiscal challenges. In retrospect, I can state this board has always been about meeting the needs of all our students and assuring that our school is run well and not going into the realm of running the school. As members of the Board of Ed, we all brought our unique skill sets and quirks to the table, and yet working together we made some great decisions. Among our finest decisions are our awesome administrators. I want to personally thank Mr. Kruger and Mr. Lazara for their professionalism, positive attitudes, work ethics, and fun personalities. In addition, a huge thank you to our phenomenal business administrator, Mrs. Chalmers, a fellow BHS alum, and one of the hardest working and smartest people I've ever worked with. I have a high level of respect for and appreciation of all our dedicated administrators and staff here at Belvidere High School. To my former board members, I like to think that we function well and were respectful and conscientious in our deliberations. Please note that my decision to not continue as a board member was solely based on extreme disappointment with the actions of the White Township Board, and it has nothing to do with this board. I'm proud to say that I served on this board for 18 years. All the best moving forward while preserving our proud past. I'm confident that the future of my beloved high school is in good hands. All the best to you, parents.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Any other response? Public participation? Do you have any comments from the public this evening? Okay, we're going to, do we have a motion for exec?
Motion. Second.
It is hereby resolved the board will now go into private session to discuss interviews for our open board seat. Any discussion held by the board which remain confidential will be made public as soon as practicable. Minutes of the private session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the closed session. I do anticipate that this may be we try to keep our executive sessions as compressed as possible, but we do have 5 candidates to interview this evening, so this is going to be a longer executive session than normal. We'll try to go at it as quickly as we can.
No, this is through,
Okay,
yeah.
we're reconvened. Do we have a motion to appoint a new board member?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Catherine Pell to our open board seat.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? This is just, this is not a roll call, this is just a voice vote, right? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Catherine, congratulations. You can take your oath of office.
It goes quick.
Yeah, I guess good.
And you can make it easy as Mary Ann wants to, just insert your name.
Raise your right hand, though. I forgot to do that.
Okay. Is this on? Yeah.
You gotta read it.
I, Catherine Bell, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state, under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Catherine Pell, do solemnly swear or affirm that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
That's it, you're in.
I think that's it, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's it.
Sworn and subscribed to, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To the other individuals who expressed interest, two things. First, thank you for your interest in serving on the board, and I would encourage you to remain engaged and remain active, either be through an ad hoc committee or other things that the board can offer. And also, if you have a serious interest in serving on the board, think about it in terms of filing a petition, which typically, I think, when did they come out, Shelley? They have to be filed usually by July, right?
Yeah.
So just through your county board of election, though, just go on their website, and if you have an interest in running, I would strongly encourage you to do so. So, but most sincerely, thank you for your interest. We really appreciate that. Okay. Under personnel, do we have a motion on items? We skipped. I'm sorry, Chris.
We jumped around.
We did.
I just have a couple things just worth mentioning.
Superintendent's report.
Just want to take a moment to thank everyone who was involved with the Wall of Fame induction last Friday night. Mr. Staples is over there. Mr. Carabinas did a great job, again, putting the committee together. Ms. Gately getting the letters together, and just a few others that just really stood out. I thought it was a really nice evening. Had a great turnout. It was good to see some folks I hadn't seen in quite a while. And I just think it's become a really nice tradition. I think it's one of our better evenings. So again, thanks to everybody who was involved with that. And again, congratulations to the inductees this year. I think they did an awesome job. It wouldn't be January without me just taking a few minutes to talk about our weather issues and where we are with that. So we have used 2 snow days now. One was prior to Thanksgiving and then one just this week. It's a tough call on Monday, but obviously with the extreme cold and the students, we have so many students that walk, we just didn't feel comfortable in talking to some of the busing companies, and I just think it was a good call to not bring the kids in that day. So we will obviously keep an eye on that. Hopefully that's it for the year. I always like to say around this time, but we know that it's never really the case. We did, through our new website, launch with different ways of communication. We can now we can send out tweets, we can send out through Facebook, right on the website itself, emails and phone calls. So hopefully all the parents and students have been getting those calls. If you haven't, please let us know. I think you can go in there yourself when you sign up, and we'll be launching the app shortly, and you'll be able to set your preferences as to how you really want to hear that announcement every day. But it's been really good, and I thank Mr. Lee and Ms. Gately for really getting that up and going. And luckily, I got a crash course on how to use that last week before the weather issues last Friday and the delayed opening. So, although I did make one mistake with the date tonight, I appreciate the one board member who called me to let me know. I won't mention who that was. Mr. Matlock. Budgeting process, we're in the middle of budgeting. I know Shelley usually talks about that. She did include the timeline on this packet, so please take a moment to look at that. As we like to say, we are looking at everything and anything to make sure we have a fiscally responsible budget. We are actually starting to talk about the possibility of shutting down 3rd Street and bringing the students up here. I'll provide a timeline to the board members tonight. There has been a rumor that we're shutting down Belvidere High School. That is certainly not a fact. I don't know where we would send our 400 kids, but that's not true. But 3rd Street is definitely a possibility.
Sending them to 3rd Street.
We might be sending, yeah, there you We'll be talking more about that the next couple of meetings. So obviously, if there's any questions with budget, let us know. Also, we've been working on our mission and vision statement through the strategic planning, which I've been talking about. Just shared it with the curriculum committee tonight, shared it with the instructional council meeting last week, so just trying to get some feedback on what everybody thinks, and then we'll be making a full presentation on that later in the spring. And the last two things, just a couple of meetings over the last 2 weeks. Last week we had our instructional council meeting, our third one now. Again, I find it to be extremely productive, good conversation, good back and forth. And I really think it's a well worth the time. I think everybody who sits on the committee would agree.
I agree.
We've had good discussion. And then last night we just met with our enrollment committee meeting. Again, I actually thought it was a very good conversation again last night. Mr. Blunt provided some pretty interesting, I'll call them forecasts, or I think that's what you would say, forecasts of what the student enrollment will look like over really the next few years. And give him credit, he's pretty much right on track with what we see as the trends too. So. Everybody got a little bit of homework last night to look at some certain things, so we're really starting to really go through all that. So, a couple of good meetings I think that were really worth the time and just been very productive.
I'd be interested in seeing this forecast sooner than later. Yeah.
So I can get those out to everybody.
Good. Questions for Chris?
Just like to say that I'd like to congratulate Chris and staff on the Wall of Fame, and that I'm really impressed by the recipients of that honor. I mean, it just is amazing to me that for the size of Belvidere High School, that we have athletes and teams that have accomplished what they have. And I think that you've done a wonderful job with that.
Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate everybody's efforts.
Yeah.
It was great seeing the field hockey teams, by the way. They all had their old jackets on, and
Wow.
it was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun.
I have to echo what Doctor said too, because the Hall of Fame was kind of stalled and stuck, and I think this Wall of Fame is a great reboot. So, great work all around. The other thing I just want to comment on is I think Monday was not a difficult call. It was wicked cold out, and student safety. I know it is always paramount in terms of your decision process. So, anything else for Chris? Personnel, do we have a motion and a second on items 1 through 7A? We have a revision?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Stefan?
Yes.
Dr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. Blum?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
I know, she goes out of order.
Throw me off with this. I was like, wait to hear something.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
Mr. McInerney?
Yes.
Mr. LeVar?
Yes.
Mr. Metlow?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins? Yes.
Under education, and there's a revision to this as well, can we have a motion on items 8 through 11, and 9's been revised?
Motion. I'll make a motion.
Mary Ann, Glenn, discussion.
I think it's worth mentioning that for the 227-19 6th grade All-Star Band, that Mr. Reed is the honored conductor this year for his service to the district.
Nice. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? On business, we get a motion and a second on items 12 through 17.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain on 15 and 16.
Thanks, Bob. Continuing business, do we have any continuing business?
So I just mentioned strategic planning is still going on, and we'll be looking to make a presentation. Mr. Blum handed us some information on Educational Foundation, so we'll be looking at the next meeting to hopefully update everybody on those two pieces.
Thanks, Chris. Anything else on continuing? New business.
Sean, I'd just like to mention, I know we have the contract with the trainers from St. Luke's, and what we've done basically is that the referrals from the trainers go to St. Luke's. And of course, my daughter was injured. She had a broken ankle in soccer this year. And she's treated at St. Luke's, but we've also taken her and gotten a second opinion with another doctor. And I'm a little concerned. It bothers me a little bit if we're referring someone to St. Luke's for what their fees are. I mean, my daughter had an ankle series, 3 x-rays, 3 8x10 x-rays. And of course, they don't use film anymore, everything's digital. But they charge $1,057 for 3 x-rays at St. Luke's. Hunterdon Medical Center, where the injury, what she was at North Hunterdon, and was taken to Hunterdon Medical. The cost of the x-rays there was $490 for the same thing. And today I talked to an urgent care doctor, a friend of mine, and said, what do you charge for 3 ankle x-rays? And he said $120. And the other thing was, my daughter had a CAT scan of the ankle done at Montclair Radiology, which is kind of an upscale area. And their charge for a CAT scan was $575. And that's a whole lot more than 3 x-rays. So I'm a little concerned, especially if someone has no insurance, that they're going to go there and be billed $1,057 on those types of charges. It just seems to me to be a little bit unreasonable as to what their charges are. So I think when this contract is up, we need to look at some other providers as well.
Have we heard any other concerns like this that Doc's raising?
I personally have not. I don't know, Mr. Staples, have you? I have not.
I've used them multiple times with kids, myself. It always goes through insurance. Even when my kids were on New Jersey Family Care, everything was covered. I mean, we didn't $10 copays. That was it. If you're uninsured, when I was uninsured, you can hook up with these doctors, fill out forms, and get yourself registered, and they only charge you a copay. And St. Luke's Orthopedic is the same way. So if you don't have insurance, they're not going to charge you anything, as long as you fill out the form and get registered with it.
Catherine?
Yeah, I do know that some, and I believe St. Luke's is one of them, they have a facility charge, but there's 2 charges you can run into, and it can apply to 2 different copays. One for the use of the facility itself, and then you could be billed separately for the doctor, so you can get essentially double billed. And I know Coordinated Health has done that, and I believe St. Luke's also has that.
What is
something
the?
to consider.
I'm sorry, Catherine. What's the? I don't recall. Our contract runs through. Was it a 2-year contract? Wasn't it?
It's 2 or 3. Chris, how long was the contract with St. Luke's? Yeah,
Okay.
it's
It
2 or
took us
3.
a while to actually
It
sign
did
it.
take a while.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
did
I
take
think
a
that
while.
was a 3-year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll have to look at it. I have to look at terms of it now.
All right.
Because it did take a long time. It might be.
I think we should just be mindful of the concern that Doc's raising, and then see. Let's kind of track this. And also, I think that they, in terms of a customer relationship with Belvidere, they need to hear feedback from us if we're hearing this kind of concern from families.
Okay.
Well, I can say one other thing too. With the CAT scan, they charge $575. My insurance paid them, and I'm rough on the numbers. I'm not. They paid about $350, and my copay to them was about $65. Hunterdon Medical, $490 for the x-rays. I think my insurance paid like $250 for it, and I had to pay like $11.94. I mean, some minor amount. St. Luke's, for the x-ray series, my insurance paid $65, and they billed me $329.
Wow.
So I'm just a little concerned about that everybody else says, okay, we're going to bill about 1/5 of what the insurance paid, and they're saying we're going to bill 5 or 6 times what the insurance paid. There's a little bit of a concern about
Right.
that.
No, it's a legitimate point to bring up. Thank you.
The unfortunate part about that is it depends on your insurance carrier, what contracts they have with the different hospitals. Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, unfortunately.
That could
Everyone
be-
can have a different experience at the same exact facility if they have.
I have a hard time believing that my insurance would have a better contract with Hunterdon Medical and with, what, I mean, it's a Cigna insurance, and it's like it's a major company. And it
I've
just
experienced that
surprising.
myself. It really
I have
depends
2
on
different insurances.
what they have.
I'll let you know better
negotiated
next
prices.
month, because I lose my insurance for February 1st, and I'll be filling that form back out again to see if they'll treat me for almost free. But I'll let you know next month how that works out.
There you go. Thank you, Sean.
Anything else, Bob?
Nope.
We're good for now?
That's it.
Okay, I think we definitely, let's kind of keep an eye on
Sure.
that. Shelley, anything you want to highlight related to the budget process?
At this point, the administration has all met discussing the budget. Like Chris says, we do have a few things that are very relevant on the table right now. Not ready to fully discuss at the board level. But as we put those through the budget, we are in good shape, and we are hoping that the tax effect on the town will be at zero, if not minimal. So we think that the initiatives that are out there are going to be very good for the town. And as we keep continuing tweaking the numbers, the finance committee will meet, I believe it's February 13th, I have on the calendar that I handed out before the next meeting. So we'll be ready to review the first draft.
And Colleen is on finance now, too, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions for Shelley? Public participation, we have our second public participation, yes.
My name is Clara Turner from Hope, 14 Lux Lakeville. I was told on December the 17th that our soccer program was under investigation, and I would like to know if you are planning to shut down the soccer program or if you need help finding coaches, because I have 2 soccer players that graduated last year and is going to graduate this year, and I have another one. So he's asking me, and everybody's asking me, I received this one in Hope and the other one in Hope, and this one is telling me this. So I just wanted to know if you are planning to shut down the soccer program or if you need help finding coaches. That's my question.
The soccer program.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is no plan to end our soccer program. It's not been discussed. I don't think it's ever been discussed. So just to put that aside, in terms of anything else related to the process that we're going through right now, it's inappropriate for us to comment any further on that. We, I guess, kind of have to work through this process. So that's about the extent of what I can offer this evening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for your question. Other comments or questions from the public this evening? Okay, we have an executive session to discuss HIB. Are we taking action?
We may take action.
We may take action.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to go in exec?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, so now hereby resolved the board will go into private session to discuss a HIB matter and negotiations. Thank you, Don. Any discussion held by the board which does not remain confidential will be made public as soon as practicable. Minutes of private session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the closed session, and we may be taking action. Do we have a motion to approve the HIB findings?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second? We're adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.